Thomas Bruce started his first career serving in the Navy from 1983 to 1994 as an avionics technician in addition to being a pastor at Cape County Jail. Bruce is also a lifetime member of the Arnold Veterans of Foreign Wars. In 2014, Bruce said that he graduated from Rankin Technical College with an associate's degree in applied science. Bruce also studied at the Calvary Chapel Bible College between 1992 and the year 2000. Bruce wrote about his time there saying he loved it. In August 2013 and March 2014, Bruce worked as a customer services specialist with the Jewish Community Center of Greater St. Louis as well as being a manager at Schnucks store. On Thomas Bruce's Twitter, it was evident he was an avid Trump fan and MAGA supporter. He regularly retweeted political news articles and seemed to have a fascination with people who were driving cars with expired or almost expired car tags. On November 19, police in suburban St. Louis were alerted to a suspected shooting which had taken place at a Catholic supply store in St. Louis County, Missouri. On the 20th of November 2018, the suburban St. Louis police identified the victim as 53-year-old Jamie Schmidt of House Springs.
The Catholic Supply, we released a few updates throughout the day of an update on the suspect description. We got a little bit more detail of the clothing. I'm sure you guys saw that. As of that description, there really isn't much more to it as of right now, unfortunately. Obviously a tragic situation. We released the name of the victim that was shot and killed during the incident. But really, we've been working tips all day. Our detectives have been working 24 hours, almost 24 hours now, and we've got a lot of resources going at it. And so any tips from the public, if with that new updated clothing information, please just call in. You know, you're not wasting our time, and we want any tip out there that can lead to an arrest.
You got a lot of tips so far?
Yeah, we've been working them nonstop. A lot of them through Crime Stoppers, a lot of them just phone calls in general, and that's exactly what we need. We just need the public's help on this one.
When it comes to the better description of the suspect, is that a case of once the people who are in that business get a chance to calm down?
That's exactly right.
Give us an idea of how that process works.
Yeah, so obviously you get a sexual assault that happens inside a store that leads to a shooting, that leads to a homicide. Obviously that was probably a very stressful incident that those people went through in that store. So for us to get the initial description out, it's obviously going to get better as that goes on with like I said, the victims and the witnesses that are cooperating with us of getting us, and they're remembering things that happened this morning after all this kind of calmed down, and that's why that description got a little bit more detailed, oriented, and more information came out as it goes on, and it may come out more. We just don't know. We just got to pretty much take it hour by hour on that one, and if anything leads to an arrest or anything like that, or if we get surveillance video or a picture or anything, believe me, you guys will be the first ones that we contact on this one.
Is there any surveillance video at all? I mean,
not that we know of. If we ever get surveillance video on this one, it's going to be released immediately, just because we don't have any information on who this person is. So, like I said, they're working on any type of video or surveillance photo or tips or anything that can lead to who the suspect is.
Still believe there's no connection, there's no relationship at all between.
That's exactly right. Usually, you guys have been around for a while, and we've been on these types of things. Usually, there's a connection with these types of sexual assaults and even shootings. And right now, there's still no clear cut of who this person was and why this person was in that store at that time.
Should there residents in that area be concerned, on alert, businesses?
I said last night, that's a tough one that happened last night with this whole stranger aspect, and there's just cause of concern of sexual assault happened with stranger, and then a shooting happened on top of that led to a homicide. So I just want people to be alert, when they're in stores or just paying attention to where they're at and this description that we're given. Maybe even go back in your memory yesterday on that busy area and see if you remember anything of someone that looked looked like that or was dressed like that, and just give us a call on what time that was or where you saw him at or anything, because that leads to maybe that person was other places throughout the day dressed like that, and that can lead to a surveillance photo or surveillance video in a different store, before the event happened or even after the event happened. So those types of things, that's why we release those details whenever we have them, when we don't know who this person is. That way it helps people that were maybe not even in that area, but saw that person maybe 10 minutes, down the road or after the event, after it happened. So. Non-life threatening. We just got to take this one case by case. So
a lot of resources.
A lot of resources. Yes. Like I said, this happened last night, and we've got officers that have been working pretty much nonstop on that one.
We saw officers with a clipboard writing down the license number.
All right, everybody, we've been listening in on St. Louis County, Missouri, updating us on 2 stories there, an officer-involved shooting that just happened today, and then yesterday's Catholic supply store shooting. Just want to let you know really quickly, authorities say a woman killed inside that religious supply store in suburban St. Louis was a customer. Police identified the victim as 53-year-old Jamie Schmidt of House Springs. Police there were searching for the gunman who sexually assaulted at least one woman and shot Schmidt in the head. She later died at a hospital. The shooting happened around 3:15 p.m. at the Catholic supply store of St. Louis in western St. Louis County near the town of Baldwin. Police still looking for that man described as 5'7" with a heavy build, and are saying he should be considered armed and dangerous. It's not clear why the store was targeted, and McGuire, that's the spokesman there, didn't know if it's a religious affiliation is a factor. Of course, we'll continue to follow both stories for you here on News Now, which is part of Fox10Phoenix.com.
The suburban St. Louis police later figured out the identity of the suspect and later identified him to be Thomas Bruce, a former pastor living in Imperial, Missouri. At 5 a.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of November, police raided Bruce's trailer home in Imperial, Missouri. The police swarmed the Geranium Drive residence with as many as 100 officers at the scene from several departments. Photos of the scene showed police searching the home as American and Gadsden. "Don't tread on me," flags flapped in front of the house. It was eventually found out Thomas Bruce was the man who shot and murdered 53-year-old Jamie Schmidt after attempting to sexually assault her at the Catholic supply store. Thomas Bruce also forced 2 other women to strip naked at gunpoint and sexually assaulted them during the brazen midday attack at the religious merchandise store, according to police. He was also charged with the sexual assault of an elderly woman in Jefferson County months earlier. Thomas Bruce was charged with 17 counts, including first-degree murder, 3 counts of first-degree sodomy, 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping, 8 counts of armed criminal action, and 1 count each of first-degree burglary and tampering with evidence. He pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Thomas Bruce was also considered to be involved in the 1985 murder of Suzanne Collins after it was discovered he went to the same avionics training school where Suzanne Collins, a 19-year-old Marines corporal, was attending classes. Sedley Alley was convicted of the murder of Suzanne Collins and was sentenced to death on May 17, 1987. 20 years later, after arguments over the evidence tying him to the murder, he was subsequently executed by lethal injection on the morning of June 28, 2006 in the Riverbend Maximum Security Institution in Nashville, Tennessee. Was Thomas Bruce involved in the Delphi murders? I didn't think he was due to the simple lack of evidence connecting him to the crime. The late YouTube creator Michael Catt often mentioned him in his videos, and Thomas Bruce was his favorite person of interest and possible suspect to have been the perpetrator. Michael Catt also brought up that Thomas Bruce went to visit his brother in Fort Wayne, Indiana on the 13th of February 2017. I can't find any proof to verify those claims, and I'm unsure where he found that information from. It was also noted Thomas Bruce wore a similar attire and fit into the estimated height of what the person on the bridge was wearing who was recorded on Liberty German's phone. I think the hat he wore is similar to the old bridge guy sketch, and the hat he wore was a newsboy cap. I don't think the Navy Carhartt hoodie Thomas Bruce wore was the same Navy jacket with the same material as the one bridge guy is wearing. I don't think bridge guy was wearing a newsboy hat, either. I think he's wearing a brown baseball cap with a curved bill. Thomas Bruce was considered a news media and internet person of interest after the Catholic supply store murder. I also believe many have speculated him to be a better person of interest than most due to Robert Ives mentioning aspects of the crime scene were non-secular in nature given Bruce was a former ordained minister. As time seemingly passed, interest in Thomas Bruce's possible connection to the Delphi murders began to wane, and eventually other possible persons of interests were brought up to the forefront in the media, such as James Bryan Chadwell. Thomas Bruce was never officially declared as cleared, but given the information which has been released recently, it doesn't seem to tie him to any involvement to the Delphi murders.